Oh, we are looking at the National Weather Service's webpage, and yes, we have another freaking nor'easter on the way. Originally, it looked like it was going to go out to sea, and then the models kind of, the GFS was consistent on it not going out to sea, and then the other models kind of came in line and said it's not going to go out to sea. And so we are dealing with the third nor'easter, and this is going to be bad for the people along the coast who've had a lot of flooding, they've had a lot of problems, and they can't seem to catch a break. And also for the people who have lost power. Some people, most of the outages on Long Island have been restored, but up in interior areas of New Jersey and New York, they have not been, and it's a continuing headache for them. But those areas shouldn't be hit too hard. This storm is going to be a little different. As you can see looking at this map, you can see that New Jersey and the Hudson Valley are, for the most part, not in the blue shade. And the blue shade there is the winter storm watch for Long Island and Connecticut. All right, so let's take a look at the briefing here from the Weather Service and see what this winter storm is all about. Again, this will be the third nor'easter. All right, so this is the potential of it from the briefing. Winter storm watch expanded to all of Long Island, southern Connecticut from Monday night into Tuesday. Gale watch extended to the southern base of Long Island from Monday night into Tuesday. And this is the problem here. We have another chance of having more of this heavy, wet snow slop, which is hard. You know, when it's cold, when you have really cold air, you don't get that kind of problem. I don't know why this is trying to get rid of that. It won't go. All right, well. Anyway, I don't know why. Like I said, this heavy, wet snow is very bad, very damaging. Yeah, finally went away. This heavy, wet snow is finally is very damaging. And causes the power outages, it causes the trees to break, and we could have quite a bit. There could be as much as a foot of snow in certain areas. Probably not on Long Island, but again, it's this heavy, wet snow crap because the air is not cold, and it's going to be very water-laden snow. This is not something that is we're supposed to see so much of. We're supposed to see drier snow, but because the air mass is not that cold, this is the problem we have. So the greatest impacts for heavy snow would be Long Island, southern Connecticut, the Hudson Valley, New York City, and northeast New Jersey would be elevated. Strong winds elevated for eastern Long Island and southeastern Connecticut. Coastal impacts significant and elevated on the bays. And this is the hazard map. So heaviest, the 6 to 12 would be the chance of the higher snowfalls would be for Long Island and Connecticut with lower amounts in New York City. But the problem again, we're dealing with those power outages again with this fucking wet slop. This wet slop. That's what I call wet slop. You know, it still isn't melted though from the last one because there's so much moisture in it. It takes forever to melt. It's horrible. And it's not the kind of snow I want to see. Not the kind of snow I like to see. Honestly, I'm not happy with it. So northerly winds of 20 to 30 miles per hour with gusts 40 to 50. And again, power outages. Strongest impacts will be midnight Tuesday through Tuesday afternoon. And the uncertainty, a 50 miles close to the coast would result in more strong winds extending inland. A 50-mile track would keep the worst of the storm out. All right, so the intense low pressure expect to, like I said, the shift could happen, and we still don't know exactly where it's going to go. We're going to go and look at the models right after I go and look at this, finish looking at this update here. I'm getting storm weary here. It's ridiculous, but we're messing with the planet, and this is what happens. All right, we are going to look at the northeast view here with the GFS here. Just to because we're just looking at this storm. We're not going to go into the long range. We're just looking into the storm that is coming at us. The GFS has been pretty consistent on this storm, sort of hugging the coast. And this is the 18Z run at the GFS. And as you can see, it takes it 4070. So, yeah, it takes it around that 4070 benchmark area, which is a known path for heavy snows for Long Island. According to this, at least, it looks like the really heavy snow would stay in Suffolk County. But this could always change. It looks like the really heavy stuff hammers the Cape and coastal Massachusetts. And there wouldn't be any precip type issues with this storm because the rain snow line is far enough offshore. So that is the track of the storm according to the GFS 18Z. Uh, Oops. I'm sorry. I'm storm weary. I'm really storm weary. I'm sick of this crap. Really am. Anyway. Oh, I did it again. I do apologize. I keep making that mistake. I meant to hit this. Okay, let me move this up so this doesn't happen. All right. Let's take a look and see what the total snowfall is for this storm for the GFS. The GFS does not. Oh, that's 24-hour snowfall. Total snowfall. I'm making a lot of mistakes. I do apologize. So yeah, this is the GFS total snowfall, and it looks like it would only give an inch or two for New Jersey and New York City, and then but as you go into Suffolk, you see some purple, so like 6 to 7 inches, and maybe 8. But the resolution is so low on this GFS with the snowfall, it's really hard to read it out. That's the problem with the GFS. It's really bad. It's a really bad model to use for this. So let's turn the GFS off and let's go and look at the Euro. I'll put this back. I'm sorry, not the Euro, but the. I do apologize. It's just too many storms, and I'm feeling like overwhelmed from this. All right, back this up. All right, that's the 0Z run of the NAM, which is not completely in yet. All right, so this is the NAM again. The NAM slams us, particularly Suffolk County. You can see that heavy snow going over Suffolk County. All right, and it slams Suffolk. It really, probably Jersey wouldn't get hit as hard. With Long Island, Suffolk County would get hit much harder. Probably the hardest area of, beside if you go into Massachusetts, it'll be even worse. But you can see that is the track of the storm from the NAM. There's a lot more moisture involved. There's a lot more. The storm is a lot stronger, and it's a little closer as well. So let's go ahead and look at what the NAM gives us with snowfall. All right, and you can see it's substantially more. And like I said, the NAM would give probably central Suffolk close to a foot or around a foot. All right, of this slop snow, which will take a very long time to melt. So if it snows this much, it's probably going to be at least on the ground for a week, even though it's March. And it's going to cause a lot of damage, like the kind of damage that New Jersey saw, the Suffolk County might wind up getting. However, the trees are different. There are more pitch pines around, so I'm a little more confident they could take it a little better. But still, there's still other trees that could cause a lot of damage. And then look at some parts of southeastern New England here. Coastal Massachusetts could be well over 2 feet in some of these areas. All right, that's the total snowfall. But then we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at the positive depth, which accounts for some of the melting that might occur due to these warm snowstorms. Are very bad, but it doesn't. You don't get as much. A lot of it doesn't stick right away. So if we take that into account, then we're at 8 or 9 inches for Suffolk County. All right, we take the positive snow growth into account. All right, and we'll just look and see how much the total precipitation was. It doesn't actually. Yeah, total accumulated precip. See how much liquid equivalent is going to fall from this thing, and it's another wet soaker storm. Look at how much liquid equivalent. 2 inches liquid equivalent over the Forks in eastern Suffolk County. And in the middle part of Suffolk County, an inch, over an inch to 2 inches of liquid equivalent. So we've been getting a lot of moisture being put on the ground for the past month. In February we had the rainstorms with the lows tracking to the west constantly. Now we have the coastal storms, one after another. It's been a very, very wet winter. It's been now it is good. It brings up the reservoir levels. It brings up the lakes, but it's an abnormally high amount of rain and precipitation for a ground that is very saturated to begin with, and that makes things worse with the trees coming down. It just aggravates an already bad situation. And I want to look at one more model, and this is the RGEM. Now the RGEM is more offshore. This is the RGEM track. It keeps a lot more of the heaviest stuff offshore, and pretty much only the eastern part of Long Island winds up getting an inch of liquid equivalent, and I'm sure it's going to correspond with very little snowfall out there too. Yeah. Well, it doesn't really. It does correspond with the heavier snowfall, but only confined to the Twin Forks for the 5 to 7. That's the RGEM. And if we look at the storm track, you'll see here. Now, I've got to look at some other models here. All right, see, the RGM is a lot warmer and more borderline, but it does bring heavy snow to eastern Suffolk County. I would say from Riverhead on east. But that track would this scenario would be a lot better for us. But you know, the RGM's track record hasn't been very good. The NAM seems to have a better track record these days, though the RGM wasn't terrible in the last storm. I'll say that. There's another model out there, but I don't think we're in range of it yet, called the experimental HD RPS model. Yeah, we have some of that too. So let's see. Yeah, it brings the heavy snow out to Suffolk, eastern Suffolk. So this may be a trend to keep the heavier snow in the eastern Suffolk, at least. You know, that's not as populated of an area. Let's see what the total snowfall is from this model. Yeah, it's around the same. So it's very similar to the RGM. So that's pretty much a look at the models with this storm. I'm not going to make a forecast yet. We have to wait a little while longer. But there's a good possibility a winter storm warning will be issued for Suffolk County. Nassau may get away with just a winter weather advisory if the track goes a little more east. If not, then Long Island, all those areas you saw shaded in blue at the beginning of this video, would probably be upgraded to a winter storm warning. Alright, I decided I want to just show you the temperature to prove my point about these borderline temperatures and why it causes the snow to be so wet. So, this is when the event starts tomorrow night, and if we look at the temperatures here on the GFS, you can see mid-30s, and it doesn't really get that cold throughout the whole storm, and this is the problem. It makes for a very, you can actually see the reflection of the storm right here on the temperature map, but it makes for a very wet, damaging snow, and it's very bad. And the problem is we don't really have that much cold air in place, but it's just enough that we get these dynamic cooling snowstorms, which are very damaging, you know, compared to, you know, the blizzard. Despite the blizzard giving us a lot of snow, the one we had in January, it didn't cause as much damage because the snow is powdery. But when you have these warmer temperatures due to climate change and because of the pattern we're in, it causes more of these damaging storms. I don't really want to make the video about climate change, but you know the way I feel about it. The weather seems to have gone completely bipolar these days. But anyway, this is the GFS one. I want to see what the NAM has to say in regards to these temperatures. So the NAM might be a little colder. Again, this is yours. I got to go back to this one. The NAM may wind up being a little colder. So let's start from here and let's see here. So again, the temperatures. The NAM is a little more cold air getting in over Long Island, but the temperatures are fairly borderline again, and this causes the snow to be very wet and damaging. And no real cold air in sight, unfortunately. It looked like we might have a shot at some Arctic air, but I think that we're not going to see any Arctic air masses for the rest of this winter. That's more of a long-range discussion that I don't want to get into in this video. So we're just going to look at some sea surface temperatures, and I'll wrap this up. All right, this is from the Wonder Map site. And you may say, how is this relevant? Well, it's relevant because you see there's more red than blue on this map. And red areas, especially darker red areas, are areas where the ocean temperatures are above normal. And you can see that we have a large area of above normal temperatures off the Carolina coast, as well as two smaller areas off our coast. There's a small area that's below normal off New England and another small area here. But by and large is morely above normal than below normal. And so these storms get their energy from the warmer than normal oceans, and that's why we keep getting nailed, because we're screwing with the climate. We're making the oceans warmer. Most of the warmth that we're putting, that's going into the greenhouse gases is going into the oceans, and that's why we see more storms. We see more, messed up jet streams. The patterns that are being set by climate change are abnormal. That's why we have bipolar weather. Nobody wants to talk about that, but you can see all the warm water offshore here. So that warm water makes for stronger coastal storms, and this is why some dumb person would say, well, how is global warming cause worse snowstorms? It's snowing more than we always have above normal snowfall every season. Why is that? It's because these storms are getting stronger because of the warmer ocean temperatures, and that makes for more snowstorms, or especially more of these borderline snowstorms that are very damaging. And that is why we're having above normal snowfall. If you ask, that's why. warmer than normal ocean temperatures. That's why I wanted to explain here in this little primer for the dummies out there. I know this might offend some people that just don't believe in climate change. They don't understand how a warmer ocean causes more snowstorms. Well, I just explained it. All right, more and more energy is going into these storms. The cold fronts, they get offshore, they go over the warm water, they stall out, and these storms form along them. And so instead of you having a nice little progression of stuff, these storms keep forming one after another because of this warm ocean. That's why we keep getting these storms. If you want to know, that's why, and that's how global warming can give you more snowstorms. Well, I guess I'll go into the long range a little bit because, well, why not? So you can see that deep trough right here. You see that we do have a trough here, and we have these storms and impulses, and we have this blockiness over Greenland, which has helped push the jet stream south, which should be a good thing if you like the cold. But the problem is the setup in the west is not. We do have this big ridge here, but the problem is there's no cold air in Canada. We finally get the pattern right, but all the cold air is on the other side of the globe, which I'll show you when I guess we got to look at a hemisphere view when we'll go look at temperatures. But let's show you what's going to happen. So there's your storm there, moving out. We still have this constant troughiness in the east, so it shouldn't get above normal. At least we're staying around average, but we're not going to really see any Arctic air. And then it warms up in the next week. The ridge starts to build in the east. And it looks like there might be a change into more of a ridge in the east-based pattern. So, yeah, we can forget about getting any, well, maybe toward the end there might be another storm. But are we going to see any damn Arctic air over here? It does not look likely. So here's the temperature anomaly. It shows us where the cold air is. So we will be a little below normal this week, but no Arctic air. And you can see the Arctic air, and you can see it's over in Siberia there. It's not coming here because the way the Pacific is set up, it's just not allowing that cross-polar flow to develop. And so, yeah, it is below normal in the southeast just because of the deep trough, but no real Arctic air. And then you can see what happens here. We're going to start switching, and you're going to see how the cold air now starts to build in Canada, but we got a ridge in the east, and so we can't really get into that Arctic air. Look at that. It has some nice deep purples. That, you know, it would be so nice if we could get that over us, but it's just not happening this winter. And now we're going into late March, so I think you pretty much, if you want Arctic air, you're going to have to wait for next winter. It's not really going to be any more bitter cold for this winter. It's one of the warmest winters ever on record, you know, and it's just almost the year without a winter. We had winter for 2 weeks, and that was it, you know, and now we're back into the warmth. So by the end of the month, looks like a flip here. So that's the anomaly from the GFS, and let's see if the Euro. We'll do the Euro anomaly too, just for fun. So you can see the cold air there, but there's no real Arctic air. No real Arctic air. Look at how warm it is over the poles too. I bet you that's an impact on ice cover. Let's take a look at that. So we're going to look at this site here from nsidc.org. This is the sea ice map here, and you can see it's all below normal. Very few areas. There's a little above normal here. Look at this side. There's a large area of the Bering Sea. I mean, we're not even in summer yet. Let's go to the next one. And again, ice thickness is well below normal. And you got to remember something. Less ice means more heat getting absorbed by the planet, which melts more ice, which leads to less ice. You can see how it becomes like a runaway cycle. So we've actually reached the tipping point, and we are now ruining the planet, and there are very few ways to reverse this other than now actively intervening to cool the planet down. Like I've suggested before, that's what we need to do. Even stopping fossil fuels isn't enough. We need to actually reduce the amount of sunlight by a very small amount coming back to the surface by mimicking a volcano eruption, like what was similar to what happened after Mount Pinatubo erupted, or even Mount Tambora back in the 1800s. That's the only way we're going to stop this now, along with not burning fossil fuels. Oh, and here you go. Half the sea. I don't usually do this, show articles, but you can see it lost half its sea ice in a matter of 2 weeks. The Bering Sea lost. You read this article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but half of the Bering sea ice vanished in 2 weeks. So half of the ice on the Bering Sea vanished in 2 weeks. Don't tell me we are not having a climate emergency. All right, read this article. I'm not going to read it for you, but people, you need to get it through your heads. I'm going to end this video right now, but you need to get it through your heads. We are in a climate emergency. Stop beating around the bush. We got to do something now. And obviously, it's not going to happen with the current blowhard in the White House. We need to put a president who's going to actually stop the climate change. And for the other countries in this world, you don't have a blowhard president. Europe is already doing a lot. More countries need to step in line and say no to global warming. No more fossil fuels. Phase them out. And we've got to come up with a plan to save the planet by mimicking a volcano eruption, or hoping and praying a volcano erupts, a big volcano erupts. Because this is an emergency, and the planet is rapidly warming. This is something that's going to happen in your lifetime. All right, it's not something that's going to take hundreds of years. It's happening right now.